way, and our beautiful babies, they're really bashful, like, well, I was going to say like me, but like me in front of the camera, so clarification, but they're a bit bashful, so they were kind of hanging onto her leg, and so we're just all moving in little, in little small groups, like trying to protect ourselves from the Volkswagen monster, but long story short, it just kind of kept getting worse and worse. I couldn't snap out of it, and I mean it, guys. I mean, Monday came and went, and they're spending thousands of dollars a day. I mean, these pieces of equipment that these guys carry costs huge money. To pay these individuals that are professionals in this universe costs huge money, and so I'm awful, and then the second day I'm awful, and the third day I'm awful, and I mean, we got 5 days to make our second impression, and it's just going from bad to worse. I mean, really. And I'm telling you, by Wednesday or Thursday of the week, I just said, this is not going to happen. I can't figure out how to be natural. She's obviously gorgeous and walking around like Marilyn Monroe, but I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. And we just, it was very complicated.
So by the fourth day, the main guy said, he pulled me aside. He's like, is there anything you can surprise Chip with, just to kind of draw some emotion out? Well, I think with surprises, I don't think like him, well, at least in the beginning, because he really has a lifestyle of surprising me, some good, some not good. Always have an animal involved, a large cow
the 40th birthday party. Did you guys see the 40th birthday party? That was a heck of a surprise. That's a Chip Carter Gaines kind of a surprise. That's what I'm notorious for doing. No, pulling off acts like that. And before we were rocking and rolling, Joe thought an idea of a prize.
I had a frame. I had this frame that I was going to print out with all the streets. We lived in like 10 houses, so
Boring.
Every street I thought, oh, that'll draw some emotion. Well, the guy said, okay, Joe, yeah. And then he was like, I'm going to call Chip. So I'm like, oh, great. I already know what's going to happen. You never ask him to surprise me, because that's only going to take what he already does times 10, which is very scary.
Just normal activity for me is there's some element of surprise incorporated. So when you actually say surprise you, then I think, okay, you're talking about a big
and we were a big bad surprise. We were in the midst of renovating our farmhouse and kind of homeless. We had just sold the house we were living in, and so we had nowhere to go in between. Hence the idea.
So he says, come up with a surprise, and I need you to draw out some natural emotion from my wife. And knowing my wife like I do, it's very difficult to draw out natural emotion from this woman. It is. She's like a third cyborg. But so I decide the brilliant idea, and guys, I mean this. I need you to trek with me here and tell me. I need to like of almost a show of hands. Who thinks this is a brilliant idea? You've got a house. You've got a beautiful wife who's extremely particular, borderline OCD control freak, and then you've got 4 beautiful babies in tow. The youngest at the time was like 3, right? So 3 all the way up to maybe 7 or 8. And so I thought, okay, so hold on. He's asking me to surprise her. We've got all the way till tomorrow at 10 a.m. to pull this off. We're out of a house currently, and we're about to move into the farm, and we know we need about 6 months to renovate this thing. How about I buy a houseboat and I have it delivered to Waco, Texas, and I surprise my wife with the house that we're going to live in for the next 6 months until our farm is renovated. Show of hands. Brilliant.
Okay, so just wait, because we're going to have another show of hands. Who would ever buy a houseboat online, sight unseen? Raise your hand. Okay, we got
a few less risk takers. So I brought this houseboat, guys, and the houseboat, when I bought it from the gentleman, and there's 2 sides to every story, so I try to be somewhat Christian-like about this gentleman, but 2 sides to every story, and he's not here to defend himself. So all I can say is when he bought the boat in the 80s, and then he put those pictures online, it was a fabulous boat. It was a beautiful boat when he bought it. The problem was there had been about 15 or 20 years of maintenance and lack thereof between when he showed me the pictures and when the boat, or in the condition that the boat was dropped off to Waco, Texas. So this semi truck big trailer backed up to Lake Waco with a houseboat on top of it. And I mean, right off the bat, I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's not the boat that the pictures and the boat, not even cousins, not even sort of related. And so at this time, because obviously I'm not blindfolded, Joe's blindfolded, and I don't mean to say invented, but in the couple of the seasons, I've done this thing to where whenever I'm a bit embarrassed or a bit not ecstatic, I go, ta-da, you know, you can relate. So I unblindfold Joe, and I go, ta-da, and I looked at her out of the corner of my eye like, oh, what is about to happen? And Ninja turned into a fighting tiger, and she was like, oh no, sir, listen, sir, semi-driver truck man, would you just load that boat right back up on that semi and ship that thing back wherever you got it, because we are not buying that boat.
There was a hole in the bottom of the boat. It wouldn't have floated if we tried.
So we were in big trouble, and as this is all happening, the cameras disappeared into the backdrop. The big boom mics. Has anybody seen a boom mic? You know what I'm talking about? It's a big stick, and they've got basically a raccoon on the end of this thing, huge. And when Texans see raccoons out of their peripheral, you know you've got to defend yourself. This is a fight or flight opportunity. And so whenever they were around, you know, they would come out and we'd be having this cutesy little conversation. I'd be standing there protecting myself, and then the raccoon would come out, but all that disappeared into the background, and me and Joe had a authentic, natural dialogue. Now it's pretty aggressive. I mean, we were not the happiest two people that you've ever seen. The show's evolved into a much familier, friendlier, sweeter, cuddlier version of ourselves. But the sizzle, they call it, a sizzle reel, which is like a commercial that these guys were making, were us on that houseboat. And I mean, I was like, I mean, this happens in real life when we go into these flip properties or and obviously renovations that we do for clients. We kind of do both. But you know, there's a lot of that back and forth. You're going into these properties and Joe's like, oh, we cannot do this. And I was like, we can do this. Just think about it this way or that way. And then she gets it from the design angle. So we're doing all of these things on this house.